American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The Senate continues to work on Phase 3 of the coronavirus stimulus, expected to include two $250 billion rounds of direct payment to taxpayers, $50 billion to aid the airline industry, and $150 billion for other distressed sectors of the economy. Speaking to reporters, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the Trump administration is on the same page with senators.
The Secretary of the Treasury has indicated it's important for us to be on the Senate floor and to pass a measure on Monday.
The Trump administration is asking Congress for several $1 billion to expand the U.S. strategic petroleum reserves and also help out U.S. oil producers after crude oil prices crashed around the globe.
So we want to see this industry get past this coronavirus pandemic, come out of the other side, and enjoy an enormous economic boom.
That's Energy Secretary Dan Brouillette. An Ohio-based Tea Party leader says it is insane that the Republican governor of Ohio has put tens of thousands of people out of work based on the recommendations of a health official with a dubious background. Chad Groening has more.
As we have reported on AFN, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine postponed Ohio's primary elections this week, despite a ruling from a judge that only the state legislature had the authority to authorize such a move. DeWine based his decision on the recommendation of Dr. Amy Acton, the director of the Ohio Department of Health, who also advised the governor to shut down schools and restaurants across the state, despite the fact that at the time Ohio had fewer than 40 confirmed cases. Tom Zalastowski is president of the Tea Party-affiliated We the People convention. He says Amy Acton used to be Amy Beach.
She was married to someone else, and she and her husband were part of an Obama digital team during the 2012 election. And she is also, as a doctor, involved with a big abortion group here in Ohio. And the governor said, we're doing this because I'm pro-life and I care about everybody's lives. But the person standing next to him making decisions is pro-death, is for abortion.
Zalastowski says it was Acton who told the governor that there were 100,000 corona cases in Ohio.
Which is patently absurd. And we have debunked that to the nth degree. And they are putting tens of thousands of small businesses out of business. That's a definition of insanity. That's madness.
As of late Thursday, the Ohio Department of Health reported there were 119 confirmed cases with one possible death. I'm Chad Groening.
The coronavirus is affecting the way we do church. But one California pastor says that might not be a bad thing.
We've been chronicling the effect the coronavirus has been having on worship services. In Aptos, California last weekend, Twin Lakes Church held live streaming only church services.
Well, hi, everybody. My name's Renee. I'm another one of the pastors here at Twin Lakes Church, and I am super glad that you guys are joining us today via YouTube or Facebook Live or Vimeo, our website, wherever you are joining us. We're super stoked that you are with us.
But things have changed even more in Santa Cruz County, home of Twin Lakes. They now have a shelter-in-place order, meaning they'll have to pare down the skeleton team even further in coming weeks. But Pastor Renee Schlepfer tells the crew on today's issues on AFR the changes have presented some unique ministry opportunities as well as challenges.
The link gets texted to people every morning at 7, and I'm just on there with a quick 3 or 4 minute video devotional with an update about what's going on at the church, how we need some volunteers maybe to take care of our elderly.
He started a weekly podcast for church members as well. And the rest of the church's staff is reaching out too.
Our worship pastors are live streaming impromptu concerts from their homes where they're taking requests from people live and then playing the songs.
Schlepfer fully expects to continue many of the new ways of reaching out to his congregation even after the crisis is over.
I truly believe that in spite of all the difficulties psychologically and financially and physically on people, I do think God's going to do something amazing.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
Stocks are moving higher in morning trading on Wall Street, and the best news, benchmark U.S. crude is down 4.8% to $24 per barrel. American Family News is online at onenewsnow.com. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Welcome to the Claudio Reilsono Show on ClaudioReilsono.com, brought to you by Aspire Pediatric Therapy and Roscoe Hearing and Allergy Care Center. Claudio will be speaking to sports legends from the 70s, 80s, and 90s about their careers, business, and what they're doing now. He will also hold roundtable discussions with some old friends about trending topics in the world of sports. And now, here's Claudio.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Claudio Reilsono Show, brought to you by Roscoe Hearing and Allergy Care Center and Aspire Pediatric Therapy. As always, want to thank my great producer, Adam Zaloof, and Rick Mitchell for the introductions. Obviously, things are going crazy with the coronavirus, so we certainly wish all of you the very best. Stay safe. Hopefully, this gets done with quick, and I know that that's dominating the news, so hopefully this show will take your mind off of that a little bit after I mention it to you, and we can move on and have some fun here. Today's guest is Hall of Fame baseball coach Nick Kaplak, and we're going to be talking about a very there's an old saying, don't talk about politics and religion, and I say don't talk about politics, religion, and hitting. Nick and I talk about this all the time. To me, it's the worst taught thing in sports. And so we have a lot to say about it. Nick, welcome to the show as always. And you know, you've coached for many years. You've played for many years. Tell us, what is the frustrating thing? What frustrates you about hitting today, from the major leagues all the way down to Little League?
Well, Claudio, thanks for having me on the show. This is something, hitting, I could talk about all day with you. We've had long conversations about it. I would say the most frustrating thing is coaches that have a one-style-fits-all philosophy, and then when they push that philosophy on a hitter and you watch that hitter and it doesn't fit their style and you watch them fail and they keep pushing it down their throat, that would probably be the most frustrating thing. I feel like every hitter is different and every hitter needs a different approach. And it's like, hitting's like artwork. You're not going to tell Van Gogh and Picasso to paint the same way. You're going to try to get, look at what they do well and make them really good at it. And I see right now, I can't even, I don't know whether to cry or laugh. I see some of these things come across my Twitter feed, and they have these kids and I think you even sent me one earlier this week where these kids are in a cage and they look like they're about 8 to 10 years old, and they're dropping the bat on the ground and swinging straight up in the air. And
ridiculous.
And I'm thinking, what are you doing to these kids? I mean, I've coached in over 600 varsity high school games and seen just about every situation. And that type of swing, to learn that early and learn it all the way up, I don't think we'd win many games if I pushed that on all the hitters. Now I can see, I'm sure we'll get into a lot, but I can see one or two hitters in your lineup maybe really trying to elevate the ball a lot. But those are the kids that are special that can do that, So, like obvious, we'd love to hear your frustrations over the years.
I say this all the time. I thank God. I thank my parents. I thank the people who hired me, and I thank me for the baseball career that I've had and am having. I thank my players. But I got to be honest with you, I can't stand to watch the major league game. My mom used to say, if there was a ball in the air, you could be sure that Claudio's underneath it. I used to do nothing, just like you guys, Nick, your brothers Vic and Vinny. You guys played it constantly. I've been up at your old house, and there's balls and bats all over the place. That's all we did. And I love coaching. I love scouting. I'm also a professional hitting instructor. I love doing that. But watching the game and hearing the things that some of these announcers who were former players talk about, and these hitting coaches, what they teach, drives me up a damn wall. I had twins on my team that batted differently. How the hell do I expect my entire team to bat the same way? Now, having said that, there's some things that people talk about. There's some the biggest swear word ever for me in baseball is, and again, this show you have to really pay attention because it's better visual. But listen to what we're saying. We'll do the best we can to explain it. But every answer under the sun is hips. Coach, I'm losing power. Use your hips. Coach, I'm not making contact. Use your hips. Coach, I'm having problems in math. Use your hips. That's the damn answer to everything is hips. And to be very honest with you, that's the worst thing to tell a kid. Now, here's what I tell kids. And I've worked with professional baseball players as well. And it amazes me some of the things that they are being taught. I'm going to jump around here. Nick and I were lucky to grow up in the era of the Chuck Tanners and the Tony La Russas and the Joe Torres and the Charlie Lyles and Waddy Herzog, Billy Martin. Those guys knew what to do. Those guys were good coaches. Today it's scary for the most part. But anyway, you hear about using your hips, squash the bug, load when the pitcher begins his motion, you begin your load, and all this, and let the ball travel deep. Hit the lower half of the ball to create backspin. Or some of these guys are teaching, like Nick had said, they drop that back shoulder. The barrel of the bat is damn near scraping the ground, and uppercuts. It is an absolute ridiculous way to teach a kid. And here's what I teach in under 10 seconds. Well, I'll say what I say first. I say step towards the pitcher, throw the bat towards the pitcher, hit the ball towards the pitcher. Step towards the pitcher to promote weight shift. Throw the bat towards the pitcher to promote more consistent contact and line drives. Throw the bat, try to hit the ball towards the pitcher to, again, promote line drives. The second set, there's 3 sets of musts, I call it. The second set is to keep your front side closed, not a closed stance. Front side meaning your head, front shoulder, hip, front foot. Just picture your logo on your chest, whatever that logo is. For a right-handed batter, I'll say this. You do not want it to be pointing towards the pitcher or towards a shortstop, which everybody does now. You do that, you lose power, you pull off the ball, and you cannot hit an outside pitch to save your life, nor are you going to be able to hit a curveball. And it retains your power when you stay closed. And again, I can prove these points better physically, but that's okay. And then the final thing, and the most important thing that nobody talks about, is to see the ball as early as possible and as long as possible. I'm not talking about letting the ball travel deep. I'm talking about, I have a phrase, see the ball early and don't look to see where you hit the ball. Then I say vision equals confidence equals fast hands. I always tell players, are you going to drive faster on a clear day or a black, cloudy, foggy day? Everybody says clear day. Why? Because I can see. Right, so you're confident. We have big wrestling mats that are about 6'4" wide and about 6'4" tall, 4 foot wide, and obviously stationary. So I have guys hitting that, and they have great hand speed. Whap, whap, they hit that mat like crazy. Why? Because they see it. It's not going anywhere. They're confident. But nobody talks about staying closed. Earlier this year, 2 a.m, I couldn't sleep. I was watching the Jacksons, the musical family, versus the Kardashians in a softball game. There was not an athlete on the field. None of them could hit, but whenever they kept their front side closed, they hit the ball. And another thing, Nick, that drives me nuts, and really to keep it under 10 seconds, everything up the middle.
Over 10 seconds.
Well, no, I'm talking about the final, the thing to keep it under 10 seconds. Step towards the pitcher, throw the bat towards the pitcher, hit the ball towards the pitcher. Keep your front side closed. See the ball early. Don't look to see where you hit it. That's hitting right there. And then obviously you tweak as a kid. Does he have a long swing? Does he uppercutting? So on and so forth. But real quick, when Bryce Harper was slumping, people said, what's he doing wrong? There was a guy who's an announcer for ESPN, who's a former major league player. I'm not going to mention his name. And who was also rumored to be a potential manager this year. He didn't get the job, but they asked him, what is wrong with Bryce Harper? And the guy said, his timing is bad. He needs to begin his swing when the pitcher's arm is behind his head. Now, the timing for that is absolutely ridiculous. And you're looking at too many body parts. And really, that wasn't the problem with Bryce Harper. It's common sense. Bryce Harper was sitting back, like towards the first base dugout, leaning back, stepping towards first base, and he was trying to hook an inside fastball 900 feet. So he couldn't hit middle or outside part of the plate to save his life. This is not an opinion. It's a fact. But what bothers me the most is here's a guy that all he ever did was play baseball, announce baseball, and obviously pretty damn close to being a manager, and he didn't know how to fix it. And it drives me nuts when these guys, all they know how to do is talk about the timing aspect of it, which they make it damn near impossible to time the ball, and they talk about hips. That's the answer to everything is hips. And again, that's the worst thing to tell a kid because everybody uses their hips. I've seen zillion hitters between coaching and playing and scouting and watching games and evaluating. I'll lie to you and say maybe 3 kids didn't use their hips properly. Everybody uses their hips. But it drives me nuts. But go ahead, Nick.
No, I agree with you on most of that. And
well, no, you should agree with, because I'll tell you the truth. Before you go on, I will put up my hitting knowledge up against anybody, right, and I'll make them look bad. I'll make them look bad.
No, so I agree with you. And obviously, I grew up.
Well, no, you said most of the things. You said most of the things. What didn't you agree with?
No, I'm going to go back to all. I'm going to go 100%. I was, we'll go 100% of it.
Okay.
And I agree with it all. And I was instructed by you as a younger athlete, high school age athlete. And I hit pretty well. And so
you hit very well.
And so if we look at that whole thing and you've spent hours and hours studying baseball. I've spent hours and hours studying baseball. Mm-hmm. And if I go through the entire thing, everything you said is dead on, except if I explain it, it's going to sound different, but it's the same thing. And the reason, okay. And so that's what where a lot of things get mixed up in the wash is how people explain it or whatever. But for me, with vision, it's common sense. If your head moves around, like I always look at, does your head move? Okay, your head moves. Maybe it moves 3 inches forward. I don't care. If you can hit the ball like that, I don't care if it moves.
Exactly.
But if it moves forward and goes up or down, and now you're on 2 different planes, now and you're not hitting, now I have a problem. I love kids that foul balls off consistently. I can put the machine up to 1,000,000. I can put sliders on the machine. I can do whatever, and they foul them off, and they're missing a ball by a fraction. And usually I can go right to the eyes. If you're doing everything right and you're fouling the ball back consistently, you're just missing the ball. And it's probably your eyes. Your head's moving forward and up, or it's moving forward and down. It's doing something like that. It's almost laughable where everybody, I've had people ask about, what are you linear rotate? Listen, you've got to go forward before you rotate. So every swing is both.
Exactly.
Every swing is part linear and part rotational. And so I start from the head. I work my way through to the shoulders, to the hands, to the waist. And like you said with the hips, I look at the back leg when I'm talking about the hips. And I got this one off of a former player of mine, Ronnie Stout, one day, because I always looked at, I could see guys pulling out and everything's going towards third if they're a righty.
Right.
And he says, Coach, and he was a really good college player, and you actually got him signed.
Right.
And he says, Coach, just look at the back leg. And I said, God, that's so smart. And so I look at the back leg now. And if that back leg, if you could pull up just about any major league hitter, if a righty hits the ball to right field, his back knee is pointed to where it was hit. And so the guys that are hips, and I go to cages all the time now because all 3 of my boys play travel ball, and I quietly just walk up and down as they're practicing, and I watch all the different instructors. And you're right. Their hips are flying open. That back leg is spinning, and then you drop an outside pitch, especially an outside changeup. They're done, 100% finished. They just can't even make contact. So, but there's so much to hitting, and the number one role to hitting, the number one thing, and you didn't mention this, is I don't care if you can hit. If you can hit a baseball, then you're doing it right. We don't have to mess with you. They're I don't care how you do it if you can do it.
You're exactly right. I remember years ago. We our first day of practice, there was this kid who did something called the trigger step, which I can't stand. That guy who made that video, Tommy Mansky, step, put the bat on the shoulder, step, put the bat up, like a robot, very mechanical. And you lose power, you lose play, you lose play coverage, and it sucks. And it ruined a bunch of hitters. But anyway, at least in my opinion, good for him. He made a ton of money. I'm glad he did. But I personally don't agree with it. So this kid did it, and he did it on the first pitch. And one of my outfielders said, "Coach is going to hate that." I stopped practice. I said, I don't care if he goes up there and, as they say, stands on his head. If he's hitting triples, what do I care? Exactly. And the things that I teach, there is no, like with you, you and I batted similarly, but I didn't tell you to bat that way. Like you mentioned the back foot. Like some kids like to squash the bug. Terrific. But some people like you and I and Vinny, your brother, we have a big weight shift and our back foot pops. It slides, it pops up. If you were to make us squash the bug, we'd be screwed. And if you'd make somebody who likes to squash the bug, which is pivot your back foot, like you're squashing a bug. But if you make them do what we do, they wouldn't be any good. And another thing that you did that I do naturally, and you did it naturally, is, and if you can picture this, I tell all my hitters to hit like a first baseman fields. Now, picture a first baseman having his foot on the bag, ready to receive a throw. If the ball is to his, let's say it's a right-handed glove. I'm sorry, his glove's on his left hand. Let's say that the ball is thrown way to his right. What does he do? He steps towards the ball to make the outside throw, not as outside. As a hitter, I say step towards the pitch. If it's a right-handed, step towards first base, whatever. So the outside pitch is not as outside, and catch it with the fat part of the bat. And I don't care if you pull it, hit it to right field. I don't give a damn what you do. But it drives me nuts when these coaches, and we're going to go to a quick commercial break here real quick, but it drives me nuts when a coach makes you do something that you're not comfortable doing. Okay? And he makes you into a robot, and because he wants you to listen to his way. Like there is no Claudio way, even those 3 sets of musts. But those are common sense things. A couple of years ago, I was asked to speak at a coach's clinic, and I said, look, I'm not going to teach what all these guys teach. I said, that's okay. That's good. What do you call your hitting philosophies? I don't call it anything. It's common sense. Bang, common sense approach. So, but on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break here from our sponsors, Roscoe Hearing and Allergy Care Center, Aspire Pediatric Therapy, Dom's Pizzeria and Sports Bar, 502 Cavett Avenue in Trafford, Pennsylvania. Call 412-372-3667. And criminal defense attorney Eric Jackson Lurie with offices located in downtown Pittsburgh and Fox Chapel. Call Eric at 412-963-9308. We'll be right back with Nick Kaplak.
Hey, Grandpa, can you hear me?
What'd you say, Parker?
Hey, Grandpa, can you hear me?
Tell me again.
Grandpa can't hear me.
Don't let this be you. Let us help you. Hi, this is Dr. Roscoe and Parker. Come to the Hearing Center for a trade-in event. That's right, a trade-in event. Trade in your existing hearing aids for the newest and best made-in-America hearing aid technology.
And save big.
December 3rd through the 7th at 871 Beaver Drive. Call 814-299-4666.
Modern solutions with the hearing you've been looking for.
Has your child been diagnosed with an autism spectrum or developmental issue? You're not alone. Aspire Pediatric Therapy has been helping families for over 10 years and has 3 convenient locations. Through love, laughter, and play, the Aspire team provides occupational speech and feeding therapy using the area's only state-of-the-art sensory motor gyms. Aspire will treat you and your family like family. Don't settle for less. Call 412-474-3566 or check them out on the web at aspirepediatrictherapy.com.
We want to welcome our newest sponsor, Dom's Pizzeria and Sports Bar, 502 Cavett Avenue in Trafford, Pennsylvania. Call 412-372-3667. Dom Pecora, great guy, great food. Make sure you tell him we sent you. Okay, Nick, what are some of the philosophies that you have encountered? And I'm sure I've encountered some of the same ones, but what are some of the ones that drive you nuts that you've heard? You mentioned the one where the bat is pretty much damn near, the top of the bat's damn near dragging home plate.
Yeah.
What else?
There's a handful. Like I'm not a big fan of launch angle, and I've had some players. I've had some players that work that for that's what they work in the cage forever. And you know what? And they were successful with it. They had gap shots. They had gap shot doubles a lot in the alleys, and I was okay with it. But what I found was if there's a guy on, if it's the end of a game, let's say you're in a big game, and I got launch angle guy up who's had a great season. Maybe he's hitting 400 and he leads the team in doubles. That's great.
Right.
I'm happy. Everybody's happy. But there's a guy at, there's one out and there's a guy at second, and you got to get that run in. And all they have to do is just hit a ground ball, just do something, and they fly out.
Right.
They fly out because that's what they do. So there's no adjustment, and you have to, I know as well. Like I personally hitting would have my 3-1 swing. My 3-1 swing has launch angle because I'm going to try to really do something with it or whatever. Try to hit the ball out of the park. But I'm not a fan of teaching launch angle. I think your natural bat path. I was told a long time ago by the big bear Del Bethel. He told me. He said stay. He said in center. He said put your guys in center field. This is throwing, and he says just hit fungos with them, just messing around, and just hit them pop ups, and just let them throw the ball in. And he says that is their natural arm angle. He goes, some guys are going to throw 3/4, some are going to throw overhand, some guys are going to come underneath. He goes, don't mess with it. That's their So in baseball, you have a natural bat path, and I think you try to make that better. So that would be the number one of them, launch angle. The other is all the buzz terms, because you go from one hitting coach to the other, and we have these different buzz terms. And I cringe when I hear a couple things. So squashing the bug, I get what it's supposed to be. If you do it naturally. But yeah, and in my mind, you can squash a bug and you can say that great. But the problem is what it teaches hit. I don't want to see any foot lose ground. I don't want to see the heel go behind the starting spot. So if you naturally squish a bug into the ground, your heel goes behind where you started and you lost ground. And now
you collapse.
You collapse, and now do what you were saying. You hated to hear more hips. Tell a kid to squash the bugs and get more hips.
Exactly.
Almost fall down. Now you can. Exactly. If you want to say squash a bug, you better teach them how to really pop it up and dig in with the ball of their foot. So I hear that one a lot, and if it's explained properly, it's okay, but it usually never is. And then I go over to elbow up. And
we got to get to that. Yeah.
Get your elbow up.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Every dad, every parent's yelling, get your elbow up. And I'm sitting there going, why do you want this kid to get and then they get tense, and they're not, any place that you put yourself in hitting that's not comfortable, same with pitching.
Right.
If you put yourself in somewhere that hurts or doesn't feel good, you're automatically ruining your swing. So I'm standing here right now with this phone in my ear, and I got my elbow up, and it feels terrible to me. Now, some guys are natural. Some guys naturally want it up, and that's great. If you're comfortable putting your elbow up, because it really doesn't give you, and I know why they do it. They don't really want you to pull the bat through and have the elbow, the backside elbow point at the pitcher when you're swinging. They don't want you to pull.
But in a way, though, Nick. But in a way, though, that everybody, and that's something, again, that your brother and I talk about, and you and I talk about it all the time. Elbow up. Again, if you like your elbow up naturally, terrific. If you don't like it up, like you and I, we like, I think, pointing towards the ground, that's fine. Because if you cock it up, if you have the elbow up, when the pitch is coming, the first thing you're going to do is go back home, which means the bat's going to drop, elbow's going to drop, bat's going to drop, you're going to swing underneath the ball. But the other thing that you had mentioned about the elbow, what the hell was it? I get all passionate about this, and a guy
pull the bat through.
Right. But they're telling you that they don't want you to do that, but in a sense, They want you to drop that back arm. They want you to drop that back elbow to get underneath the ball. So they're telling you to do
that, right?
Yeah.
If you have to. You can't swing a bat with your elbow up. You just can't. It's physically impossible.
Yeah. And then, like you said, when they say get your elbow up, okay, well, where is the right point? Okay, just like, for example, when they say one of the things I hate is let the ball travel deep. Okay, first of all, you get anybody to hit a fungo. So I want you to crush this fungo. They're going to throw the fungo out in front of them. They're not going to throw it at their belly button. But when they say let the ball travel deep, okay, where's deep? Like I told you today, Nick, we're going to call you at 7 p.m. on Monday. Okay. We didn't say, you know what, Nick, we're going to call you Monday evening. Well, what the hell is Monday evening? Is it 5, 6, 7, 8?
You'd be like a cable company.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Very good. Very good analogy. I'm going to use that. I like that. Okay. Because, and then let it travel. Okay. Then when you do let it travel deep, you're going to lose power. And then that's going to make you open up. And another thing, and watch these things. These aren't just opinions. There's a major league pitcher he plays for Cincinnati. I forgot his name, but he's having this wiffle ball game or something like that with some in the park.
Oh yeah,
lot,
Trevor Bauer. He's from Cleveland.
Okay,
yes.
Great. Okay, now there were some hitters who were major league. I don't know who the hell they were. I think they were major league hitters, but they were over rotating, and the ball was just skimming off the bat, foul tipping behind them. Whenever you open up, whenever you overdo the hips, your hands are going to drag. It's just that's just the way it is. And you're going to skim the ball. Not when you open up, not only are you going to lose power, not only are you going to be susceptible to the outside pitch, but you're going to pull off the ball. You're going to skim the ball. You're not going to be able to hit it solid. Okay. And it drives me nuts. And the other thing real quick, when I talked about the way Nick hit and the way I hit with that front foot going towards the ball, watch 1988. And again, these aren't opinions. These are facts. Okay. Watch 1988. Kirk Gibson's famous home run against Dennis Eckersley.
As soon as you said it,
in the World Series, okay? So forget about Gibson being hurt and all that kind of stuff. Eckersley threw a 3-2 backdoor slider, which today nobody would have hit that pitch. But watch what Gibson does with that front foot. He goes out, makes a little adjustment with the front foot, steps towards the ball, and he flicks at it, catches the fat part of the bat, and it's a big home run. Watch Mickey Mantle's 500th home run, and watch what he does with it on an outside pitch. Today, you don't have to worry about calling pitches, fastball, curveball, slider, change, whatever. Call location because they cannot hit the outside pitch. Oh, the other thing, Nick, keep your hands inside the ball, which I don't know what the hell that means. Keep your hands inside the ball. Again, hit the lower half. I'm going to tell a kid or even a major leaguer, and you'll hear a major leaguer, I won't mention his name, but they said, why are you hitting so many more home runs? Because I'm getting underneath the ball. That's not true. That's not true. He's keeping close more than this one particular guy. Then real quick, Matt Adams, a couple of years ago, when he was with the Cardinals, he hit a home run in the playoffs against the Pirates. He jacked one up. He killed it. So John Wanger, the Pirates announcer, says, the backspin he put on that ball. He golfed it, and he finished long. He didn't finish short where the ball he scooped it. He finished long, and the ball, that's a launch angle to me, the guy hit a home run. What's that?
What we're all trying to do is put the fat part of the bat in the middle of the baseball. When I hear parents sitting in, the third row yelling, hit the bottom half or the top half of the ball.
Oh my God.
I call timeout sometimes. I just go to the kid, hey bud, so what are you hearing there? Hit the top half of the ball. Yeah. Why don't you just hit the middle of the ball then? If you're that good,
I say the bat,
half, hit the middle.
The bat is a knife.
Yes.
Cut the ball in half. Simple. It's hard enough to hit a ball. They make it so damn hard. And then a kid, what happens is, I have a kid, you mentioned terms, terminology, verbiage. I have a kid who has great hands. That's something that you either have or you don't have. Joe Namath is my favorite quarterback of all time, and he used to say, great quarterbacks are made, not born. I don't necessarily agree with that. You have to have X amount of ability. This kid has great hands, but he twists. He's so used to twisting. And then on top of that, there's a new term now called drain the bat, which means when you're swinging, the knob of the bat should finish pointing towards the ground, okay? And the top of the bat should be pointing towards the sky. What the hell is that? There was an old shot of Lou Gehrig back in I don't know what year, and he was talking about hitting. He said he likes the bat to finish below the belt, below the back shoulder or the front shoulder. Why? So it's line drives. You get more points of contact with the ball. I mean, it just these guys come up with these phrases, and they're wrong.
On the phrases, Claudio, all the years of coaching, I never worried about. I tried to have my same terminology. I used, balance was a big term that we used, and
Sure.
I think it's common sense.
Again, common sense.
Right, but the main thing that I really cannot stand is I felt like every hitter, I worked with every hitter individually, and I would say, well, where did you learn this? And the next question was always, why are you doing it? And if they could answer why, and we could get on the same page, I was so happy. Okay, go ahead, do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was always why. And this would be the fourth thing I can't stand is when I go to a game or if I go to a youth game and that kid gets in the box and I won't be specific because not sure everybody who's going to listen to this, but I have seen kids just get destroyed. You go up, get your elbow up, move up in the box, move back a little bit, turn your head here, turn your back here. You don't coach a kid. If you're listening to this, do not coach a kid on game day during his at-bat. Coach him before the game, coach him in practice, teach him everything you can. Now, you might say you're a little behind, you're a little this, that, and it might be but when he goes up to the plate, as soon as you say, put your head on your, put your shoulder, bury your chin, get your elbow up, he's done. Imagine, like, if I told you, let's say that's like, it's like the first time, and I know your dad and you know my dad, it'd be like the first time driving in the car with your learner's permit.
Oh my God.
With our parent. I couldn't make it out of the driveway. I didn't even know what I was doing. You just got to be quiet. You can't say, teach them.
Right. Now, having said that, and you're right. Having said that, though, and you're exactly right. What I do, every player has something, a glitch. Okay. For example, one player that I have will collapse. Another player I have will fly open. Another one will, his front shoulder, which is another thing that people don't notice. He's a right-handed batter. His front shoulder, his left shoulder is really pulled back. It's tucked. So if I see that after a swing, I'll just touch my shoulder it's a reminder because
Claudio,
I don't want to tell him to get out of the way of the bus after he gets hit. You know what I mean?
That's so what I'm saying. It's because you worked on that already in practice, and now you're giving them that signal. You're not inventing it right at game time right then. I've seen teams of kids that they haven't even taken batting practice in 2 weeks. And when they go up there, they're hearing all this stuff. Like, you wouldn't say it to him if you didn't already work with him on it. If he didn't already know the glitch, know why you're saying it. If you lose the why there, you're just that's not good.
Nope. And I like that, what you said about the why. On that, we're going to take another quick commercial break here from our sponsors, Roscoe Hearing and Allergy Care Center, Aspire Pediatric Therapy, Dom's Pizzeria and Sports Bar in Trafford, Pennsylvania, and criminal defense attorney Eric Jackson Lurie with offices located in downtown Pittsburgh and Fox Chapel. Call 412-963-9308. We will be right back with Hall of Fame baseball coach Nick Kaplak.
Hey, Grandpa, why's your TV so loud?
What'd you say? Constantly having to turn up the TV to understand what they're saying? Is it hard to carry on a meaningful conversation? Is it difficult to understand cashiers, people on the phone, or even your grandchildren?
The Roscoe Hearing Center in DuBois can help using the most advanced technology. If you or someone you know has hearing, balance, or vertigo problems, call the Roscoe Hearing and Balance Center today at 375-0455.
Modern solutions with the care you've been looking for. The Roscoe Hearing Center in DuBois.
Has your child been diagnosed with an autism spectrum or developmental issue? You're not alone. Aspire Pediatric Therapy has been helping families for over 10 years and has 3 convenient locations. Through love, laughter, and play, the Aspire team provides occupational speech and feeding therapy using the area's only state-of-the-art sensory motor gyms. Aspire will treat you and your family like family. Don't settle for less. Call 412-474-3566 or check them out on the web at aspirepediatrictherapy.com.
Aspire Pediatric Therapy in locations Moon Township, Pennsylvania at 993 Broadhead Road, Suite 10, and Banksville at 2893 Banksville Road, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. North Hills area, Pines Plaza Shopping Center, 1130 Perry Highway, Suite 120, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. In the Punxsutawney area, 1464 North Main Street, Suite 14, Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, and the city of Pittsburgh in the north side, 1301 Beaver Avenue, Suite 10, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And remember to check out their website for all of their information at aspirepediatrictherapy.com. We want to welcome our newest sponsor, Dom's Pizzeria and Sports Bar, 502 Cavett Avenue in Trafford, Pennsylvania. Call 412-372-3667. Don Pecora, great guy, great food. Make sure you tell him we sent you. Nick, another thing that I'll tell a story again without mentioning names. There was a major league manager, because I deal with some different pro guys here and there. Good guy. And I was asked to talk about his particular player. And this player had a ton of talent, strong guy, big power hitter, but he would hit 215, 220 max, where he could have been a 275, 40 home run hitter, easy. He had a ton of ability. So I was asked, what this player had to do to become a better hitter. So I said the things that I told you at the outset of the show. Everything up the middle, stay closed vision. That's it. It's that simple. And because this guy, whenever he would swing, if you can close your eyes and picture this, audience, he would step. He was a left-handed batter. He would step, screw his heel into the ground. His hips would really rotate strong. His hands would be pulled into his chest, into his stomach, and he would just turn, rotate like he was taught. And he could not hit an outside pitch to save his life, or really even a middle pitch. He would only hit mistakes. Now, when he did, he'd crush him. But he couldn't hit a middle or outside pitch to save his life. Middle once in a while, but outside never. He'd pull his head off. He'd screw himself into the ground. He was done. So then I was asked, again, what should he do? And I said it. They said, could you fix him? I said, hell yeah. I've worked with a lot less talented people than this guy. Then I get a phone call from the coach saying, I want to let you know that me and my hitting coach have been around the game for years. I said, I understand that, coach, and I wasn't being disrespectful, but I was asked my opinion, and I gave it. Let me ask you, because I'm always willing to learn something. What are you guys doing with this guy? He said, number one, we want him to let the ball travel deep, which is absolutely ridiculous. They made him do something called the fence drill, which, for those of you who don't know, you get the knob of the bat, put it on your stomach, go to a fence until you can't go anymore, and swing, which is what this guy was already doing. It's like giving a diabetic sugar. He was already opening up, keeping his hands in like that. And you lose power when you let the ball travel deep. The second thing they were having him do was a toe tap. A toe tap is what it is. When the pitcher begins his motion, he taps his toe. It's a timing thing. Now, I switch hit. Whenever I bat left-handed, I did a toe tap instinctively. Derek Jeter did a toe tap instinctively. If you do it naturally, terrific. But if you make somebody do it, it's not good. So I messed up. Number one, they had him do the fence drill. Number two, they wanted him to let the ball travel deep. Number three, they wanted him to do the toe tap. That guy is no longer playing Major League Baseball because they didn't help him. Okay, 2 teams, 2 organizations could have helped this guy, and they didn't help him. Okay, and you say, well, Claudio, who the hell are you? These guys are making 7 figures a year, and they're in the major leagues, and so who are you to say that they're wrong? Well, what do you call a guy who finished last in med school? You call him a doctor. Okay, not everybody who is a doctor is great. Not every attorney is great. Not every cook is great. Not every teacher is great. Not every coach is great. And then you might say, well, Claudio, every time I turn on the TV, they talk about elbow up, squash the bug, let the ball travel deep, backspin, keep your hands inside the ball, and this, that, and another thing. I say, well, okay. The Italians have a saying, if 50,000 people say a stupid thing, it's still a stupid thing. And again, these are not opinions, what I'm teaching you. They're not opinions. They're facts. And the last thing, Nick, before you go on, T work, right? The T, every time I see somebody using the T, they use it wrong. They put the T, the apparatus, the device, on top of a plate. And then the hitter stands where he always stands during the game. And the ball is too damn close to him, and he ends up jamming the knob into his stomach, opening up, and he messes himself up. All the T is, folks, is an apparatus / device to hold the baseball. That's it. When they put the T out, if you want to put it on the plate, that's fine. But back up off the ball so you can have extension, so you can hit the ball hard out in front of you. If you want to let the ball travel deep to advance the runner, that's a different subject altogether. But I'm talking about, like Nick said, you want to get the fat part of the bat on the ball. You want to hit the ball hard. And all these guys are talking about launch angle. They're flying up in the air, striking out. There were more strikeouts, I think, the past 2 years in baseball than there were hits. And Nick, I'm sorry, before I let you go on, it's not the pitchers either, because when you and I were coming up, forget about the Seavers and the Carltons and the Palmers. Forget about those guys. Let's talk about the Rookers, the Andahars, the Rodens, the Royces. Those guys knew how to pitch. They knew how to. They were Scurry. We always talk about Scurry had the best curveball we ever seen. Those guys knew how to pitch. These guys now, they just try to throw it right down the middle with everything they got, 190 miles an hour, and see if you can hit it. And sometimes they hit it, and sometimes they strike out, and that's your game. Go ahead, Nick.
Well, just the double up on the pitchers and getting people out. I've had some pitchers in the past that, and I'm not a fan of the radar gun. I like to use it though, so I can get differences in the fastball, changeup, and curveball. So we can
sure.
So that's what I like to use. But I don't like to use it to see how hard you could throw to say, wow, you could throw. Because anymore, there's a hitting facility everywhere, and everybody can hit a fastball. But watch kids play wiffle ball in the yard. And if you got a kid, and I use this term all the time to pitchers, hey, this kid, we're going to get him out. You're playing wiffle ball in the backyard with him. And I see, kids get cut from a team because they don't throw hard enough. And I'm like, oh, come on. If you can get people, the name of the game is throwing off the timing, and, pitching is throwing off timing. So that's I
always say hitting is timing and balance. Hitting is timing and balance, and pitching is messing that timing and balance up. You're right on the right on the mark, Nick.
And probably my favorite thing with hitting, when I have a kid off, I call it resetting. And I don't know if I'm the one that came up with this, but I didn't get it anywhere. But I call it resetting the clock. And I'll be like, you got to reset your clock. And they'll be like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm going to throw. I'm just going to toss these in here, and I want you to kill everything to right field. And then I'm like, I want you to hit everything and I'll just toss them. I want you to hit everything, and they can move around the box, put them where. Then I want you to hit everything to, right center, then left center, then right down the line. And then I feel like, hey, we kind of reset our timing. Because if you're a little later on the ball, if you're a little bit later on the ball, where's it going to go? It's just physics. And typically, if it's on an outside pitch and you're a little bit later on it, you have a better chance to get the barrel on it. And so, and like, you don't really, it's kind of neat when you have your own kids then, cause now you're like, oh, this is, I've got to really work with my son all three of them, on how to hit. And when they're 3-4 years old, up to about 8, you don't have to work on mechanics because they automatically put the barrel on the ball wherever it is, and their whole body works perfectly. When they get over that age, everybody starts talking to them, and they really start getting screwed up. My 8-year-old, if I film him and send it to anybody, he has perfect mechanics because he hasn't really been messed with. And now, my 13-year-old is kind of funny. He's a catcher. He's not a real big kid, but I'm like, hey, bud, you're not going to hit home runs. I said, so what's the best thing for you to do for your team? Get on base. You're fast. Get on base. So I said, well, let's look at the guys that back in the day, because you can't find a hitter like this now. I said, let's look at Pete Rose. Let's look at Rod Carew. And so I'm showing him videos of Rod Carew.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
In an interview with Rod Carew where he says you can throw the ball anywhere he wanted. If he saw the second baseman move over and he saw a hole there, it didn't matter if you pitched him middle, out, whatever. He could put the ball there. He could put the ball there, and that's what he was doing. It was like he was playing ping pong. He was placing the ball where he wanted to, and so my son kind of took to that and started batting like Carew a little bit, watching videos, and you're like, I really like this. And so if I go watch a game, he'll be the only 13-year-old batting like that. There's no.
Well, that's the way me, you, and Vinny batted. Nobody. I mean, that's just the way we with that tilt. Yeah.
Right. And the goal with that is you almost can't strike out. You're not going to strike out. You're going to you're just the efficiency of a swing like that. You're just striking.
That's the word, efficiency. That's the word, because it's not there's no unnecessary movement distance in the bat.
Why? Let me ask you this, and we'll go to the same era. Why would I want Pete Rose to swing like Willie Stargell? That's what we're doing now.
Well put. Exactly.
Pete Rose to swing like Willie Stargell. There's only one Willie Stargell, okay? And then in between.
And you said another word.
Dave Parker.
You said another, and that's a great way to put it. And you said another word earlier about adjustment. When I played softball, obviously you were there. Everybody thought I was going to do good at first, and I batted the way I do in baseball, which is with that bat. A little bit of a crouch like a Pete Rose, George Brett, but the bat, is just to explain it to people, the bat head is kind of pointing towards the umpire, the home plate umpire. So what was my problem? I was way early, because in baseball you don't want to be late. You want to be early. Excuse me. You want to, you want to time it up right? So that's what I did. So in softball, I was skimming the ball with the top of the bat. I was way out in front. So then some people said, let it, wait on it and all that kind of stuff. So no, if you remember what I did, Nick, is I started batting more like Eric Davis, where the bat was more, it was vertical, and it was more held closer to my belt buckle. This way, it took me longer to get from point A to point B, and I timed it better, and I was able to hit. So if you remember that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
so I made an adjustment. Is my point.
Right. It's funny you say that because I'm going to use my son again. With my 13-year-old, he goes from that now. But if a pitcher is not throwing hard at all, if a pitcher's just tossing it in there, and he feels in that stance he's getting up front, he goes to. He really is a fan of Buster Posey, and he's imitated his swing for forever. He goes to, and he'll tell me. He'll say, this kid's really throwing soft. I'm going to go to Buster Posey, where he has the bat then up and he's opened up a little bit and he's given himself, a lot more time. And Stargell, if you ever look at the interview, they talk. I don't know if it's true or not. They talk about Stargell going into this sporting goods store or whatever, and where the wind, like he was his rookie year, he was hitting terrible, and another player was in there, or coach or whatever, and they said, Willie, just do, when the pitcher's starting to get ready, do 2 spins of the bat, cock it up. He goes, because your timing's off. And they said, he said, as soon as he started doing the 2 windmills and came up, and then he was set. And that's what fixed his timing, that adjustment.
Yeah. But I mean, it's adjustment. But the other thing too, is that what drives me nuts is when a pitcher is firing the ball, like in our day, Nolan Ryan, they used to tell the leadoff hitter to, when he goes up, scratch the back line of the box, erase it so we can move back in the box. The further back you can stand, the better, right? But hitters don't do that anymore. I mean, if a slower pitcher is pitching, a knuckleball or a guy who's known for his movement, why the hell would you be back in the box? Why wouldn't you move up in the box? Look who used to hit Greg Maddux, the guys who went with the pitch, the guys who didn't try to do too much with it. And another thing, to kind of get to not a different thing, but the coaches today, I told you about this one particular hitter in the major leagues. He used to have his front shoulder pulled so far back tight, okay, that he lost that muscle twitch. And he became top hand dominant, and he couldn't hit the damn ball. All he had to do was move an inch, and he was fine. Nobody noticed that for 6 months. Then years ago, there was a guy who played for the Pirates called Mike Rambo Diaz. He was a power hitter, and he was striking out. Sid Thrift, who was one of the great baseball minds ever, he wrote a great book, The Game According to Sid. He comes down to the field in his cardigan sweater, and he says, Mike, from now on, your field is left center field to right field. And he walked away. He didn't say let it travel deep. He didn't say swing. He just said that's your field. So it was a visual, and it helped Diaz. And then another thing that I am not a fan of. Again, as far as stances, Nick, like you said, everybody has their own stance. Now, I'm not a big fan of the wide base, no step, unless you like a Paul Molitor who did it naturally with those violent hands. That's terrific. But some people say the two-strike approach. I had a kid on my team, great kid, strong as hell. He would go into a two-strike approach, which he would widen the base, widen his feet, shorten his swing, but then he wanted to hit the ball hard, and he would over-rotate. He would strike out every single time until I said, look, that's not working. In theory, yeah, shorten up your stroke and all that kind of stuff. Sure, that's great. But it's not working, because if you have a wide base and you don't like it, what you're going to do, you want to hit the ball hard, so you're going to open up that much more because you want to hit the ball hard. Or the hitter that doesn't take a stride, but he puts the foot up and down. If he does it naturally, terrific. If he doesn't do it naturally, he's going to stomp, which means he's going to vibrate. And the other thing is he's going to lose power, and he's going to miss the outside part of the plate again because he's going to over-rotate. And again, these are not opinions. They're facts. They're facts. And again, you said the word earlier, adjust, and letting people let people be who they are. Or again, your brother Vinny with his little girls. They're playing softball, and somebody's screaming, get your elbow up, get your elbow. They don't want the elbow up. And then they're going to put it somewhere where it isn't comfortable, like you said. That's not going to be good. And it drives me nuts. But that's why announcers and coaches, but especially announcers, they have a responsibility to say the right things. Because what they say, a coach is going to repeat it, be it a father in Little League or softball or a high school coach that says, hell, it must be right because look who he is. And they're not always right. They're not always right. But I know the way you are with hitting, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and everything needs to be situational, and I get so tired in Major League Baseball where they say, well, situational hitting is only 15% of the game now. Well, that's why you're losing. That's why your team's not very good. Make it more a part of the game. And maybe it is. Maybe it is. You have a game winning situation 15% of the time. Well, if you won 15% more of your games, that's 20 more games. In 100
Nick, in the World
more.
Series with the Dodgers 2 years ago, I think, maybe last year, I don't know when it was, but it was one of the 2 years they were in. They just needed a single from second base. That's it.
And they're coming out of their shoes.
Exactly. You hit it on the head. They're coming out of their shoes.
And if you have a guy and there's, if that's your 15%, great. You need to win that game. And the problem is the guys don't know how to do it. They don't know how to I don't care if you take a check swing. Remember back in the day, the big term, you don't ever hear this now. They'd be like, Bill Madlock, he muscled a single over the
quick,
second
compact.
baseman.
Right.
He just punched one over because he knew he had to get a run in. And you just
every time you mentioned Bill Madlock, every time he was up, they said short, quick, compact. But, another thing, you mentioned Stargell earlier. When he hit his famous home run, watch Willie Stargell in an at-bat. And watch him when he misses it. What does he do? He flies open. He pulls his head off the ball. Or he'll screw himself into the ground. Watch the effortless swings he took in this. Watch the last home run he hit in Game 7. He stayed closed. That logo, look where it is in relation to the infield. It was like towards his left hand, like shortstop. He retained his power. He flicked it, home run. Look at the Kirk Gibson shot I told you about. He stayed closed. I mean, these guys, they've ruined. The coaches have ruined the game with these new philosophies. And I'm going to say something else. In boxing has changed. Years and years, what do they call that? The Queen of Doonesbury, whatever the hell it was. Those guys used to ball up their fists, and they would show their opponent, Nick, the back of their hand. You know how they do that. You know how they do that. Okay, so obviously boxing has changed to the jab and all that kind of stuff. Okay. The basketball shot has changed, where they used to have a set shot. That's changed. The baseball swing has not changed. Forget about the grip of Ty Cobb, or look at Babe Ruth's swing. Look at Lou Gehrig's swing. Look at all those guys. It hasn't changed, but they're trying to change it.
People will go crazy now about Ruth because of how far he comes forward. Like he's.
It was a weight shift.
Yeah, but he could.
But it moved forward, like you said. That was a great point. And again, you said, and I forgot to hammer on that. That was a great point, what you said about the head, because the way you hit, the way I hit, and not that we want people to hit the way we hit, but I'm just saying, yes, our head moved forward, but when it bounces, you're making the pitcher better than what he is. You're making that ball move. You made a great point.
And I'm not saying be extreme with the head moving forward. If it moves 2 to 4 or 5 inches, okay. And I like it when it's still. If you can keep your head still and it never moves, great, good for you. Because it's easier to see something when your eyes are still. But I see kids on 2 different planes, and they'll be in the middle of the summer, and they'll text me a video of themselves, and I'll be like, yeah, this is just thank you. This is where you're at, And I love it now, the technology today, because I have kids that have played for me, and what's nice is I get videos of them and updates throughout the summer, and they'll say, Coach, what do you think of this? And if they're on board, and I never give more than one thing to work on. You don't want to throw 7 different things at a kid because they're just done. Yeah, I throw one thing at them. Yeah, I'll say, look, this is what you're doing with your backside, and then I'll get a video maybe 2 weeks later, and I'll be like, well, let's look at your head here, or your eyes, or what. But never, I see coaches, they'll say 7 different things to a kid, and a lot of times, none of it's even right.
Correct.
And my eyes, and I always tell everybody my eyes are too old now. Well, it's not that they're too old. They probably never were good enough to see what a hitter does. I videotape all the time and break it down in slow motion. It's very hard to see unless it's just really, really obvious what a hitter's doing. You can see everything in slow motion. So
now it's a shame, and as I said, I look at zillions of hitters and evaluate them and paint a picture of them to scout directors, what have you. And, or like another thing they talked about, putting a towel behind your back armpits and making sure that it stays in there. Well, yeah, again, that's good with the middle pitch and inside. If the pitcher promises to throw the ball in the middle or in the inside, we're in good shape. But if it's an outside pitch, he's not going to hit it because you have him trained to swing, with those hands. I guess that's what they mean, hands inside the ball. And the thing that drives me nuts, though, the most, Nick, is when something is so obvious and the announcer doesn't say it, and he's a former major leaguer. Or even, like I said, there was because I don't want to rip on any announcers that are trying to make a buck and all that. Go ahead.
There's a lot of guys that are major leaguers. They did so, but they didn't study it. But like, if you spend 20,
right.
Like for me, 20 plus years studying it, you 40 years studying it. If you spend that time studying it, you become different than a guy that played the game. And we always assume, well, so-and-so is a great hitter. He should be. No, I don't care if you weren't a great hitter. I don't care if you never played basketball and you're teaching guys how to shoot. If you studied it for 20 years, it becomes different. And I think, let them off the hook. I just don't think they know. I think a lot of the announcers just don't really get the game.
You're right.
And that's the problem. They get the overall.
And they have to say something. They have to say something. So they say what the hell everybody says about the hips and yeah, exactly. But I mean, again, I'll say it again. They've ruined the game. And another thing, like you see a guy who there's this one particular player here in Pittsburgh. He fouled off 4 balls. He missed one. He fouled off 3-4 balls, and he was flying open. And then the 5th, 6th pitch, he stayed closed. He hit a rifle shot through the hole on the right side. So what does the announcer say? He really popped his hips on that. No, he didn't. He stayed closed. Why can't you see that? I'm not that damn smart. Maybe I am. But he stayed closed. He retained his power. His head was on the ball. Years ago, Joe Morgan, the Hall of Fame second baseman, when he worked for ESPN, he used to get the telestrator, and he would draw a line from the shoulders to the bat where they hit the ball out in front of him. It was like an angle. He said, that's the way you want to be. Now, like I said, the Little League coaches mean well, but it starts at the top, and again, the Italians have another saying, which I've said numerous times, the fish stinks from the head. If it's bad up top, it trickles down. If they're spewing bad things up here, it's going to trickle down, and then the college coaches are going to say it, and the high school coaches are going to say it, and the Little League coaches are going to say it. One time, you called me up. You went to a particular clinic, and you said to me, why is it so important for the backswing of I'm going to paraphrase here, after the hitter swings, they want him to recoil back. Why should it, remember that particular coach said his bat speed coming back should be,
unnamed
it should be
coach at
just as
the Ohio
fast.
State
That's right.
Yeah, the state of Ohio clinic,
Right. And now this guy's no longer coaching college, but he does have a pretty good job at this one particular place, which is terrific. Good for him. But now, Ricky Henderson did that. Reggie Jackson would recoil. But Rennie Stennett would do it. A lot of these guys did it. Ricky Henderson did it to showboat. Reggie did it because that's just the way his body did it naturally.
Well, I think
so you're going to make somebody do it.
Down every time he swung, so that was getting trying to
get
balance.
But when he hit his famous, you're right. Watch Reggie Jackson when he swung and missed. He fell over the damn place, or he'd recoil, he'd fall. But watch the famous home run he hit in '71 at the All-Star game when he damn near hit it out of Tiger Stadium. Or watch his famous 3 home runs that he hit in the World Series in 1977, when he hit 3 consecutive pitches for 3 consecutive home runs. He was balanced, as Nick said earlier, and he stayed closed. Okay, but so it's right there in front of you. But so why do these guys want to make it harder? Or like another thing, and I know you've seen it. I'll be walking to do my own thing, and I'll see a practice, and I'll see a coach saying, "Okay, step 1, step 2, step 3." Everybody's like a soldier doing calisthenics, and they're like robots, and that's not the way it is. That's not the way you do it. But everybody wants.
Yes, it's getting more like that. It's just bizarre to me, where that people want to walk in and see something that looks. I've seen a lot of coaches that had very organized practices that have very, everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's wearing the same socks. Everybody's wearing the same pants, game pants, the whole. And you know what? They go out to play and they stink. And
they lose by 20.
Good. Yeah, and I've seen it in every sport. And it's, why? The real thing, kids don't like that. Most kids don't like the fact that if it's 90 degrees out, that they can't wear shorts at practice. hey, if we're not going to slide that day, I don't care if you wear shorts.
I'm with you.
We're going to Florida next week, and you guys, we're practicing, and we're working on fly balls or whatever, and you want to take your shirt off to start getting a tan because that's something you want to do and it makes you happy, then by all means do it. I have a video, actually, we keep talking about Stargell. There's a video online of Stargell at Three Rivers Stadium taking BP with no shirt on. And it's like,
I know.
Yeah, so I'm not, and I bring this, I don't really want my kids, not to have shirts on, but what I'm saying is, why can't people be people and still play a sport? We're not in the, North Korean military when we walk out there. It doesn't make you play any better, okay?
It does not, and they'll label it to discipline. That's not discipline. As a matter of fact, I'm writing an ebook about player-coach relationships, and that is some of the things that I'm talking about. And you hit it on the head. And again, that's what made you such a successful coach. And the players wanted to win for you. And that's what it's all about. I think these guys try to be, tough guys and all that. But not only that, but again, and obviously the show is about hitting, and we're going to wrap it up here in a minute. But it's a shame because. But don't take Nick's word for it. Don't take my word for it. Watch This Week in Baseball from the 80s and watch all those swings and how they stay close. You say, well, look at these guys now. And Nick, I'm going to give you the final word in a minute, but they say, look at these guys now. They're hitting 500-foot shots, this, that, and other thing. I give these guys credit. They're major leaguers making a ton of money. Congratulations. I'm happy for you. But I don't think they're better than the players that we grew up with. Okay, like somebody's got to hit a home run. Somebody's got, like, if you and I are terrible at golf, Nick, we're terrible at, let's say that we are terrible at golf, and you say, Claudio, let's go play golf. Well, hell, somebody's got to win between us. Okay, but just watch the technique and mechanics from those guys. And what my last thing, my final, I want to do a new thing here since we didn't do the Eric Jackson Lurie lightning round. We're going to do the Eric Jackson Lurie criminal defense attorney final word. For this particular show. Eric has offices in downtown Pittsburgh, Fox Chapel. Call Eric at 412-963-9308. My final word is, Nick has a brother, Vince, who was an unbelievable wrestler, professional wrestler, he was a terrific athlete. Forget the look, forget all that. Let's just talk about the athleticism that this guy had. Vinny would throw a punch, okay, or a forearm. Then he would take steps. I don't know how many steps he took, and leap onto the top turnbuckle with 1 or 2 feet. I don't know what the hell he did. And then he would jump off those turnbuckles and fly in the air and do a body, and he'd land on you. Okay. He'd punch you, take a couple steps, jump on the turnbuckle, and push off the turnbuckle and fly and land on you, flatten you, and pin you. It was great. He did it 1,000 times. Now, if somebody told him, Vinny, what you have to do is you tuck your right elbow in about 45 degrees, throw a punch about 7-8 inches, then rotate 180 degrees, take 2 1/4 steps, bend your right knee 45 degrees, your left knee 60 degrees, whatever the hell, jump off the canvas onto the end of the turnbuckle, top turnbuckle, and leap and jump on the guy. Vinny would have broke his neck. Okay, he did it instinctively. There was a show years ago called Paternity with Burt Reynolds, and he wanted a kid. So he was looking for a woman to have a kid. So the woman asked him, they were walking in the park, and the lady said, why is it that you want a kid so bad? Why is it you want a kid so bad? He said, I'll tell you why. He says, every day I come to this park, and there's a 8-year-old kid who rides a bicycle, a 2-wheeler, and he pops it on this pipe, and he rides it, and he jumps off of it. Then he pops it on again, and he rides it, and he jumps off of it. And he does it every day. One of these days, a teacher is going to tell him that he can't do it. It's impossible to do it because of physics and inertia and all this kind of stuff. He's going to break his neck. I want to be there when that kid falls to catch him before he falls. In other words, the kid does it instinctively. Somebody's going to screw him up. Vinny does it instinctively. Nobody screwed him up because he wouldn't have listened anyway, but they would have screwed him up. So that's my final word. Nick, what is your final word on hitting?
Well, to piggyback on what you said is you do not mess with a hitter until they fail. And when they fail, you can step in and you can help them. But you wait. A lot of times you want to wait for failure, and you hope it happens. You don't hope it happens at all, but you hope it happens early if it's going to happen. And we've touched upon a lot of good things. And there's just one thing I want to throw in there. I've coached a lot of years. I've had a lot of great athletes. And with the possible suspension of, I know your season is on the brink. And
we're
done.
We're done.
You're done. The possible suspension of these seasons. I really feel for the seniors that are in college or in high school that were looking forward to their senior year and didn't get. I thought it was a big deal in 1992 when the Pittsburgh Press went on strike during my season, and they weren't updating the batting stats, and I was troubled by it. I couldn't imagine losing the whole.
Who Nick
season.
had a higher average than Sean Casey was in the major leagues. But go ahead.
That was in 91 though. That was my junior year.
Okay. All right.
But I still carry that with me, by the way. But
as you should.
So but if you look at that, those guys losing that, coaches that may have had a 40-year career that were going to retire this year, all that stuff coming to an abrupt end. And I've always taught my players in football or baseball, I've coached both, is you play, every game like it's your last because you don't know when it's going to be. And this is just evidence of that. It just really makes me, really saddens me. And it makes me a little bit, it's just terrible that these guys that put that kind of passion in are losing that season. So just they're definitely in my thoughts.
Yeah, no, that's great. And again, my season this year was canceled, obviously my spring season, and I have a couple seniors, Caleb Miller and John Schumann, both out of New York, who were great guys and great players, great people, and I'm going to miss them terribly. And I'm emotional as it is, and I would have been emotional at our last game and just to see them go, and it's tough. And you're right. And, sometimes, I guess I complain about this or about that with baseball, but you and I are both doing what we love to do, Nick, and we're blessed to do it. And we're passionate about it. And, I wouldn't want anybody else other than Nick talking about hitting because Nick knows what he's talking about. He coaches with his heart, great with his players, obviously great with the mechanics and technical side and the X's and O's, but great with his players. And that's why, again, he's going to be inducted into a Hall of Fame here in July here in Pittsburgh, which is very well deserved. Coach Nick, his family's my family, love the family except for Vinny. So like I said, I'm glad to have you on the show, and I appreciate you taking time. And it was fun. It was fun to talk about it.
Likewise,
about
Claudio.
hitting and everything. All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon. Okay, everybody. As always, want to thank our sponsors: Roscoe Hearing and Allergy Care Center, Aspire Pediatric Therapy, Dom's Pizzeria and Sports Bar, 502 Cabot Avenue in Trafford, Pennsylvania. Call Dom at 412-372-3667. And check out Lee Davis and Associates Legends Division Facebook page. And criminal defense attorney Eric Jackson Lurie with offices located in downtown Pittsburgh and Fox Chapel. Call Eric at 412-963-9308. We have a lot of great guests coming up, and you can hear the show on ClaudioReilsono.com, iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher, Podbean. Subscribe to the show. And as always, I'd like to thank my mom and dad, Olindo and Ida Reilsono. Thank you, everybody. Please stay safe and tune in to the next show. Talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to the Claudio Reilsono Show, brought to you by Aspire Pediatric Therapy and Roscoe Hearing and Allergy Care Center. Be sure to tune in next time on ClaudioReilsono.com.
why's your TV so loud?
What'd you say? Constantly having to turn up the TV to understand what they're saying? Is it hard to carry on a meaningful conversation? Is it difficult to understand cashiers, people on the phone, or even your grandchildren?
The Roscoe Hearing Center in DuBois can help using the most advanced technology. If you or someone you know has hearing, balance, or vertigo problems, call the Roscoe Hearing and Balance Center today at 375-0455.
Modern solutions with the care you've been looking for. The Roscoe Hearing Center in DuBois.
Has your child been diagnosed with an autism spectrum or developmental issue? You're not alone. Aspire Pediatric Therapy has been helping families for over 10 years and has 3 convenient locations. Through love, laughter, and play, the Aspire team provides occupational speech and feeding therapy using the area's only state-of-the-art sensory motor gyms. Aspire will treat you and your family like family. Don't settle for less. Call 412-474-3566 or check them out on the web at aspirepediatrictherapy.com.
We want to welcome our newest sponsor, Dom's Pizzeria and Sports Bar, 502 Cavett Avenue in Trafford, Pennsylvania. Call 412-372-3667. Dom Pecora, great guy, great food. Make sure you tell him we sent you. Need a celebrity for an event? Visit the Lee Davis & Associates Legends Division Facebook page. Available for speaking engagements, autograph shows, ribbon cuttings, product endorsements, and other type appearances. We have World Series champions like Jim Rooker, John Candelaria, Grant Jackson, Rennie Stedet, Al Oliver, Ken Griffey Sr., football legends Roman Gabriel, Vince Papale, Louis Lips, Super Bowl champions Marv Kellum, Robin Cole, boxing champions Donnie the Golden Boy Lalonde, Vinny the Tasmanian Devil Paz, and yours truly, Claudio Reilsono. Contact us through our Facebook page at Lee Davis & Associates Legends Division or at reilsono16@gmail.com.
American Family News, I'm Steve Hugh. The Senate continues to work on Phase 3 of the coronavirus stimulus, expected to include 2 $250 billion rounds of direct payment to taxpayers, $50 billion to aid the airline industry, and $150 billion for other distressed sectors of the economy. Speaking to reporters, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the Trump administration is on the same page with senators.
The Secretary of the Treasury has indicated it's important for us to be on the Senate floor and to pass a measure on Monday.
The Trump administration is asking Congress for several $billions to expand the U.S. strategic petroleum reserves and also help out U.S. oil producers after crude oil prices crashed around the globe.
So we want to see this industry get past this coronavirus pandemic, come out of the other side, and enjoy an enormous economic boom.
That's Energy Secretary Dan Brouillette. An Ohio-based Tea Party leader says it is insane that the Republican governor of Ohio has put tens of thousands of people out of work based on the recommendations of a health official with a dubious background. Chad Groening has more.
As we have reported on AFN, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine postponed Ohio's primary elections this week, despite a ruling from a judge that only the state legislature had the authority to authorize such a move. DeWine based his decision on the recommendation of Dr. Amy Acton, the director of the Ohio Department of Health, who also advised the governor to shut down schools and restaurants across the state, despite the fact that at the time Ohio had fewer than 40 confirmed cases. Tom Zalastowski is president of the Tea Party-affiliated We the People convention. He says Amy Acton used to be Amy Beach.
She was married to someone else, and she and her husband were part of an Obama digital team during the 2012 election. And she is also, as a doctor, involved with a big abortion group here in Ohio. And the governor said, we're doing this because I'm pro-life and I care about everybody's lives. But the person standing next to making decisions is pro-death, is for abortion.
Zalastowski says it was Acton who told the governor that there were 100,000 corona cases in Ohio.
Which is patently absurd. And we have debunked that to the nth degree. And they're putting tens of thousands of small businesses out of business. That's a definition of insanity. That's madness.
As of late Thursday, the Ohio Department of Health reported there were 119 confirmed cases with one possible death. I'm Chad Groening.
The coronavirus is affecting the way we do church. But one California pastor says that might not be a bad thing.
We've been chronicling the effect the coronavirus has been having on worship services In Aptos, California last weekend, Twin Lakes Church held live streaming only church services.
Well, hi, everybody. My name's Renee. I'm another one of the pastors here at Twin Lakes Church, and I am super glad that you guys are joining us today via YouTube or Facebook Live or Vimeo, our website, wherever you are joining us. We're super stoked that you are with us.
But things have changed even more in Santa Cruz County, home of Twin Lakes. They now have a shelter-in-place order, meaning they'll have to pare down the skeleton team even further in coming weeks. But Pastor Renee Schlepfer tells the crew on today's issues on AFR the changes have presented some unique ministry opportunities as well as challenges.
The link gets texted to people every morning at 7, and I'm just on there with a quick 3 or 4 minute video devotional with an update about what's going on at the church, how we need some volunteers maybe to take care of our elderly.
He started a weekly podcast for church members as well, and the rest of the church's staff is reaching out too.
Our worship pastors are live streaming impromptu concerts from their homes where they're taking requests from people live and then playing the songs.
Schlepfer fully expects to continue many of the new ways of reaching out to his congregation even after the crisis is over.
I truly believe that in spite of all the difficulties psychologically and financially and physically on people, I do think God's going to do something amazing.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
Stocks are moving higher in morning trading on Wall Street, and the best news, benchmark U.S. crude is down 4.8% to $24 per barrel. American Family News is online at onenewsnow.com. I'm Rusty Pugh.